Hello, lovely booktubers. I'm Debs. Welcome back to my channel, Raina Reads Stuff, or Raina Wants It Rough, because it's GarbAugust, it's the end of week one, it's Sunday, I'm going to do my weekly wrap up. I'm in the book shack, it's very warm, and because my glasses only still have one arm, they're probably going to be sliding off my nose, and I am going to be fiddling with them. Apologies. This week, I've decided to do my weekly wrap-up slightly differently. I'm going to split it into two parts. So I will be doing the GarbAugust part of it today, and tomorrow I shall put out the second part of it, which I am calling the palette cleansers, because after some of the books I've read this week, I needed them. GarbAugust, as everybody knows, was created by Creaming Olly, or Screaming Creaming Olly. I shall put all the rest of the lovely co-hosts down below. I've had a really good week. I have read some good stuff. I have read some absolute rubbish. One of the things I don't really enjoy on the bingo card are the kinky sex books. It's not something I read on a normal basis, but in the interest of throwing myself wholeheartedly into this challenge, I read, well, absolute porn. What can I say? So, we've got a couple this week which really are not the sort of things I would normally read. What should we start with? Should we start with the worst one? Now, I've got no one to blame for this but myself, by the way. I choose these books. No one forces me to read them. This one is for the bingo card prompt. Wouldn't watch or read on a bus. Can you see why? My vagina smells like sulphur. From the Dark Mind of C. Caummisar. Actually, when you look in the back of the book, her real name's Sharon. Anyway, this was hideous. No, I wouldn't read it on a bus. No, I wouldn't read it again. No, I probably wouldn't read anything by this person again. It had a vague plot in that our heroine, who was called Madam something, can't remember what, was the host of a program on the dark web, which involved persuading people that the way to heaven was to die horrifically painfully. Sounds like a good concept, doesn't it? And she filmed, this was torture, sexual torture. Basically, she kidnapped someone. She filled every orifice, everyone, with a combination of grit and glass. It really wasn't very nice. I won't be reading it again. Can you see now why I wanted some palette cleansers in between these? Next up on the bingo card, another one full of sex. Super Hot Supervisor by USA best-selling author Mandy Harbin, from the Tender Tarts series is ticking off the kinky sex. She works for this company in one office. She's assigned to do a project with somebody who works in a different office. Unbeknown to her, he is also tasked with trying to get some information out of her about her office so her office can be closed. Now, this is where my problem begins. They have a Skype call, a business Skype call, and at the end of the call, she forgets to turn off the camera, and he forgets to tell her or turn off his camera, and she immediately after the call decides she needs to masturbate, and he watches. Now, I can honestly say I've taken part in an awful lot of Skype calls and an awful lot of Zoom calls, and this has never happened to me, and I don't believe it happens to anybody else. Anyway, a long distance relationship occurs that even includes a Bluetooth enabled dildo. I've got nothing to say about it after that. Kinky sex books, God no. What else have I read this week? I read this. The Godsend by Bernard Taylor. And this was for the Killer Kids prompt on the bingo card. And actually I quite enjoyed that one. It was, slightly unbelievable, but a lot of these things often are. A very happy couple have 4 children, 3 boys and a girl. The wife would really love another daughter, but they're quite happy. They both have reasonable. She begins to write books, and he is an illustrator. They take their children out for the day, one day, to a lake, and they come across a heavily pregnant woman. And the wife chats to her for a long time. Heavily pregnant woman then turns up on their doorstep. They invite her in, they give her a meal. She doesn't look as though she's making any effort to leave, and then she goes into labour and gives birth. And she gives birth to a little girl. And they call the doctor. She stays there overnight. When they wake up in the morning, the baby's crying, the woman's gone. So they foster said baby, and then they later adopt said baby. But then things start to go wrong. Their youngest child dies in his cot, strangled by a blanket. A little later, a couple of years later, they're on a family trip to the same lake, and the eldest son dies. He drowns in the lake. And then their other son dies a couple of years after that. I'm using this book for the Killer Kids section, so it's not difficult to see where it's going here. But I'll stop there. I did quite enjoy it. It was quite entertaining. Never going to win a Pulitzer Prize, but it was quite entertaining. Right. Trash in translation, I went for manga. This is Assassination Classroom, Book 1. It is by Yusei Matsui. Story and art by Yusei Matsui. I don't read a lot of manga, but this guy's an alien. He's an octopus. Well, he's got tentacles. He has punched a large hole in the moon Um, don't expect science in this. The moon that now looks like a crescent moon because it's got a large hole in doesn't change its orbit at all. There it is, look. Moon with hole. Anyway, he has threatened to do exactly the same to the Earth in a year's time. But in the meantime, he wants to be a high school teacher. And so he is employed by a school, because the government says they have to teach the troublemakers in the school. And a government agent goes to the school and tells the kids they've got a year to assassinate this creature. Unfortunately, he can move at a speed of Mach 20, has extremely quick reflexes, and doesn't really want to be killed. This was actually very entertaining. Completely ridiculous, but very entertaining. I can't get used to manga to reading the book back to front, but I enjoyed this. I enjoyed it. What else do we have? So that was Trash in Translation. Based on a video game. I went seriously lowbrow with this. Sean McDermott's Super Mario Brothers Go to Gotham. And the illustrations were in Lego. I enjoyed that. Joker and Penguin kidnap the princess. Mario and Luigi head to Gotham to try and get her back. When they get there, they're joined by Batman. It wasn't the longest book in the world. It wasn't the most literary book in the world. But it was quite good fun. It's based on a video game. I'm taking it. Now, after that, I read this, and this is for the book with green on the cover in honour of PAX. The London Tram Murders by John Broughton. A Vance and Shepherd Mysteries Book 2. I quite like the story in this. I quite like the plot. A serial killer who didn't finish his work. I think he killed 6 of the 9 people he was planning to. All of a sudden there are copycat killings starting on or around the tram service. And so the police are desperately trying to find the killer, who they believe is a woman, and they also believe could be this guy's sister, before she manages to kill the 9 people that were planned in the first attacks. So they know the type of person that she's going for, because each of the first lot of murders had a type of victim, and they need to stop her before she gets to the end. Well, they need to stop her as soon as possible. I did quite enjoy this book. Right at the beginning, there were a couple of things that made me think it was self-published. At one point, and this is quite early on, I don't know, quite often I would have put a book down for things like this. On the same page, at the top of one page, it says that the original killer was the fifth of 5 siblings. He had 3 sisters, and it turns out he had 2 brothers. That makes 6. Any idiot can add those up and make 6. And then at the bottom of the same page, the brothers, his brothers, were both called by the same Christian name. Either that's very careless parenting, you can't be bothered to think of a name, so you give him the other guy's one, or it's very bad editing. I'm going for the editing. Other than that, there weren't any major discrepancies throughout the rest of it, and I quite enjoyed it. And after that, I read another one that I wasn't quite sure about. This. The Diary of a Drug Addict by Stephen E. Crockett. This claims to be a factual diary, but the more I read of it, the more I wasn't sure. It's got a parental advisory on it for explicit content, and it started off detailing this guy's demise into drug abuse, and it did sound pretty realistic. Again, I don't think it was edited particularly well. The spelling is abysmal, but it didn't bother me as much because I thought it added to this is a first-hand account. I mean, it was things like there, and there. They were all getting mixed up. Every time he wanted to say they are, he spelt it THEIR. Nobody's in the possessive, it was nobody's fault, was always spelt with an IES. In the middle of it, it got quite, it almost read as a checklist of how to become a drug addict and how to successfully take heroin. And although there were noises made all through the book about how, this is a really bad idea and you ruin your life, some parts didn't read like that. He kept, for example, saying that he liked it. Yeah, I'm not quite sure what to make of that one. Now, that is the drug addict checked off. It's been anything goes week, so I read 2 vastly disparate books. The first one, this was sent to me as part of a package from Roy at Roy Reads Anything. Surf Safari Nurse. I liked this. I enjoyed this very much. Laurie is a nurse, and her boyfriend is called Ron. He is training to be a doctor. He's in the last year of his training, but he's also a surfer. And one day he jacks it in the training and heads off on a surf safari around the world, which is going to be filmed by a friend of his. Said friend of his asks Laurie to go along to be the nurse for the trip. There were a number of surfers. They're going to Hawaii, they're going to Australia, they're going to all sorts of places. Laurie and Ron split up over the fact that he's left his training to just become a surfer dude. But she goes anyway on this trip. There's one female surfer who Ron appears to be quite close with. and they're being financed by a family who have taken along their son, who wants to be part of the surfer scene, but really is so uncool that everybody just takes the mickey out of him, and that upsets Laurie. She's a nice person. Beach scenes, no sex scenes, just don't know how to describe it. The other two books I read are sort of remove your genitalia and stuff it in the face of the reader. Bang, bang, bang. No subtlety, no romance. This is more romance. Don't think there was any sex in it at all, actually. But I thoroughly enjoyed this. It was great fun. And the second Anything Goes book I read was this. This isn't trash. This is Star Trek. This is Day of Honor book 2 of 4. It's a Deep Space Nine book. It's called Armageddon Sky, and it's by L.A. Graf. There is a science ship goes off from Deep Space Nine, and it's going to view the disintegration of a planet which is spewing comets onto a planet that is inhabited. Not long after it's left, the science vessel reports that it's damaged. They're being forced to. It's also being chased by Klingons. So a ship is sent out from Deep Space Nine to discover what's going on. On the planet, you have Klingons that have been exiled. You have the survivors of the science vessel. The science vessel itself has dropped passengers on the planet, headed off in the other direction, hotly chased by a Klingon warbird, and then they attack or sort of run straight into a Cardassian ship. Now bear in mind here, Cardassians, the only type of Cardassians I understand are the species in Star Trek. Other Cardassians mean nothing to me. Anyway, Cardassians aren't really that nice people in Star Trek. And all the time, there are still comets and meteors pounding this planet that's got the survivors on, and these exiled Klingons. Someone's got to do something about it. Somebody's got to save them. Guess who that is? So, I'm going to turn you round. We're going to look at this. We are crossing off kinky sex, killer kids, drugs, trash in translation, based on a video game, wouldn't read on the bus, and packs. I think, we're also crossing off week 1, Anything Goes. Let's turn you back around again. I think I've removed all of the bingo prompts that I don't want to read. I've read them. I've started on a host recommendation, and the host recommendation is I'm trying to find out, trying to remember who recommended it. GarbAugust, no, that's not it. I can't remember, but I am reading The Meg by Steve Alton, and so far it's brilliant. Next week is category romance, not my favourite, but I don't find it offensive, and men's adventure, which probably is one of my favourites. So I now have 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10, 11, 12 of the bingo prompts marked off. That's not bad going for the end of week 1. Okay, I know the end of week 1 was 10 days, but even so, still not bad going. So, that's it from me. I'll be back tomorrow with what I read in between these to get my mind cleared of lots of bonking. So, if you wish, pop back tomorrow. Thank you for popping by. I hope you're enjoying GarbAugust. Let me know what you've been reading. Bye for now.